Welcome back to the podcast. Artificial intelligence has become one of the most talked about technologies in the world, but it has also become one of the most misunderstood. Depending on where you get your information, AI is either about to replace every human job, become smarter than all of us combined, destroy creativity, solve every business problem, or somehow reshape civilization overnight. The conversation often swings between extreme optimism and extreme fear, and in the middle of all that noise, it becomes surprisingly difficult to separate what is actually true from what simply sounds dramatic. That's exactly what I want to talk about today. Because one of the biggest challenges with emerging technology is not just understanding what it can do, but understanding what people imagine it can do. And those two things are often very different. AI has become surrounded by myths. Some driven by hype, some by fear, and some simply by misunderstanding. The problem is that myths influence decisions. They shape how businesses invest, how people think about their careers, how teams adopt tools, and how society reacts to change. So instead of focusing on headlines, I think it's worth stepping back and asking a simpler question: what is actually real? Let's start with one of the most common myths: AI is going to replace everyone's jobs. This is probably the most emotionally charged belief in the entire AI conversation. Every time a new model gets better at writing, coding, design, or automation, the same question returns: are humans becoming unnecessary? And while it's true that AI will absolutely change many types of work, the idea that entire professions will simply disappear overnight is a much less realistic story. Technology has always changed jobs. Automation changed manufacturing. Software changed administration. The internet transformed communication, media, and commerce. But history shows that work usually evolves rather than simply vanishing all at once. Some repetitive tasks disappear. New roles emerge. Skills shift. The more realistic conversation is not, will AI eliminate all jobs, but, which parts of work will change, and how should people adapt? Another common myth is that AI understands information the way humans do. This one is subtle, because modern AI often sounds incredibly intelligent. It can explain complex topics, answer questions confidently, and generate responses that feel thoughtful and coherent. But sounding intelligent and actually understanding meaning are not the same thing. AI models recognize patterns, predict likely outputs, and generate language based on enormous amounts of training data. That can create astonishingly useful results, but it can also create the illusion of understanding where none truly exists. This is why AI can sometimes produce explanations that sound completely convincing while being factually wrong. It's not lying in the human sense. It simply doesn't know things the way people imagine. Then there's the myth that AI is always objective. Because AI feels technical and mathematical, many people assume it must be neutral. But AI systems are built by humans, trained on human-generated data, and shaped by human decisions. That means bias can absolutely exist, sometimes subtly, sometimes significantly. If the underlying data reflects imbalance, historical bias, or flawed assumptions, the output can reflect those same problems. Technology doesn't automatically remove human imperfections just because it feels computational. Another myth that appears constantly is the belief that AI will make expertise irrelevant. This idea shows up everywhere. People assume that because AI can write code, draft content, generate designs, or summarize research, deep human knowledge will become unnecessary. But in practice, expertise often becomes even more valuable. Why? Because knowing how to evaluate output matters. A beginner may not recognize a flawed answer, weak strategy, or incorrect assumption. An experienced professional usually will. AI can accelerate execution, but judgment remains essential. In many cases, the difference between great AI use and terrible AI use comes down to the human using it. There's also a myth that AI is basically magic. This sounds ridiculous when said out loud, but a surprising amount of AI marketing encourages exactly that mindset. Products are often presented as if they can think, reason, solve everything, and remove all complexity from work. But real tools are much less magical. They have strengths, limitations, edge cases, costs, and failure points. Some are genuinely transformative. Others are simply helpful productivity tools with clever branding. The problem with treating AI like magic is that unrealistic expectations lead to disappointment. On the other side, there's an equally misleading myth that AI is just hype and nothing meaningful will come from it. This is the opposite extreme, and it's just as inaccurate. AI is already changing workflows in very real ways. Writing, research, customer support, design iteration, software development, automation, and decision support are all being affected. The impact may not match the dramatic science fiction narratives people imagine, but dismissing it entirely ignores the very practical changes already happening. The internet was once dismissed. Smartphones were once dismissed. New technologies often look overhyped right before they become normal. One of the strangest myths is the belief that AI progress is linear and predictable. People tend to imagine technological progress as a smooth upward line, but innovation rarely behaves that way. Some breakthroughs happen unexpectedly fast. Some problems remain difficult far longer than anticipated. Public perception often swings wildly because people assume that what happened this year will continue at exactly the same pace next year. Reality is messy. Some capabilities improve dramatically. Others stall. Predicting the future of AI with certainty is far harder than many confident commentators would like to admit. And finally, there's the myth that AI is fundamentally a technology problem rather than a human one. This may be the most important misconception of all. The real questions around AI are not only about models, infrastructure, or technical capability. They're about trust, responsibility, education, adaptation, incentives, and how humans choose to integrate technology into society. The most advanced tool in the world still depends on how people use it, regulate it, deploy it, and respond to it. So what's the reality? The reality is that AI is neither magic nor meaningless. It is neither the end of human work nor an irrelevant trend. It is a powerful set of technologies with real strengths, real weaknesses, real risks, and real opportunities. Some fears are exaggerated. Some optimism is unrealistic. Some hype will fade. Some products will fail. But some changes are absolutely real. And perhaps the healthiest way to think about AI is not through extremes, but through clarity. Not fear. Not blind excitement. Just understanding. Because myths make technology harder to evaluate, while reality makes better decisions possible. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.